Tunnel warfare is a general name for war being conducted in tunnels and other underground cavities. It often includes the construction of underground facilities in order to attack or for defense, and the use of existing natural caves and artificial underground facilities for military purposes. Tunnels can be used to undermine fortifications and slip into territory, while it can strengthen a defense by creating the possibility of ambush, counterattack, and the ability to transfer troops from one portion of the battleground to another unseen and protected. Also, tunnels can serve as shelter for combatants and non-combatants from enemy attack. It can be sometimes linked with urban warfare, as tunnels are often found in urban areas and cities. Although urban warfare as a whole usually dominates any tunnel considerations, tunnels, due to their nature, restrict fields of fire, and thus any troops in a tunnel usually only have a few areas exposed to fire or sight at any one particular time. Also, they can be part of an extensive labyrinth and have cul-de-sacs as well as reduced lighting that can create a closed-in night environment. Usage of tunnels in war. The origin of tunnel warfare. In ancient warfare, tunneling in order to mine enemy fortresses and make the walls crumble is an ancient military art that has been put in use all over the world. A famous mine made the walls of Kazan crumble, allowing the Russians to take it. The only countermeasure was to dig down, intercept the mine, and fight the advancing enemy soldiers underground. Sometimes the tunnels collapsed during the fighting, and both sides were buried alive. The oldest known sources about employing tunnels and trenches for guerrilla-like warfare are Roman. After the uprising in Germania, the insurgent tribes soon started to change defense from only local strongholds into utilizing the advantage of wider terrain. Hidden trenches to assemble for surprise attacks were dug, connected via tunnels for secure fallback. In action, often barriers were used to prevent the enemy from pursuing. Roman legions entering the country soon learned to fear this warfare, as the ambushing of marching columns caused high casualties. Therefore they approached possibly fortified areas very carefully, giving time to evaluate, assemble troops and organize them. When the Romans were themselves on the defensive, the large underground aqueduct system was utilized in the defense of Rome, as well as to evacuate fleeing leaders. The use of tunnels as a means of guerrilla-like warfare against the Roman Empire was also a common practice of the Jewish rebels in Judea during the Bar Kokhba revolt. With time, the Romans understood that efforts should be made to expose these tunnels. Once an entrance was discovered, fire was lit, either smoking out the rebels or suffocating them to death. Well-preserved evidence of mining and counter-mining operations has been unearthed at the fortress of Dura Europos, which fell to the Sassanid Persians in 256 7th AD. Medieval warfare. Tunneling was used throughout the world in the medieval period. Often they connected fortifications, towns, villages, religious and political buildings. They were used for supply, communication, and as escape routes. A particular use of tunneling was in mining, where tunnels, braced with timber supports, were dug under the fortifications of besieged castles or towns, which when fired would collapse, bringing down the overlying wall. Modern warfare increased firepower that came with the use of gunpowder, cordite and dynamite made above-ground fortifications very expensive if they should withstand any attack. Fortifications were covered with earth, and finally they were built totally underground to protect crews and ammunition. For the purpose of firing, artillery and machine gun emplacements had loopholes. Such a tunnel fortress was difficult to enter, and inside there was no room for the attackers to hide from gunfire and explosives. On the other hand, poison gas proved to have a devastating effect. In trench warfare with heavily fortified strongholds, the tactic of digging and mining the enemy positions was used in the American Civil War during the Siege of Petersburg and the Russo-Japanese War. During the Siege of Port Arthur, extensive mining warfare was conducted by German, French, British and Australian troops on the Western Front during World War I, where the largely static front lines created favourable conditions for mining. The largest mining operations were conducted in the Battle of Messines, where specialist Royal Engineer tunnelling companies placed 22 mines under German lines. 19 were eventually exploded, killing about 10,000 German soldiers. Underground attacks especially broke the morale of the enemy if he was surprised in his secure positions. However, the huge craters that are the results of mining enemy positions could be obstacles during an advance, as was found at Petersburg Battle of the Crater and the Somme. Tunnels built to secure frontline supply were built in several places on the Western Front. On the Eastern Front, the successful Brusilov offensive employed tunnel trenches to allow the Russian troops to start the initial assault very close to the Austrian trenches. During World War II, the rapid transit systems that existed in many cities became another military consideration. The lessons of these battles led to the construction of even bigger systems of defense underground, like the Maginot Line or the West Wall, with their own infrastructures. North Korea, it has been claimed, has prepared several transport tunnels with a capacity 10,000 troops per hour for a possible invasion of South Korea. This melds the defensive tunnel warfare with mobile warfare. The term tunnel war or tunnel warfare was first used for the guerrilla tactic employed by the Chinese in the Second Sino-Japanese War. The tunnel systems were fast and easy to construct and enabled a small force to successfully fight superior enemies.